In this video, you are going to learn how to export your images from the Adobe Lightroom Classic for various needs. For example, you can export your images for the web resolution or for watermarking, for sharing it on your website or on other social media platforms. And you can also export your images at the highest resolution so that you can even sell that image online, or if you plan to print that out, you need to have that higher resolution file. So basically we are going to learn how to export your images for the web, and how to export your images with the watermark, and how to export your images for the printing purpose, and how to create some presets so that you don't have to go through the entire process again and again. So all you need to do, once you have created the preset, just click on those presets and your image would be exported very easily, and that is going to save you a lot more time. Alright, so once you have done all of your editing and you have added all the metadata like keywords and title and description or the caption of your image, and now you want to export this image from the Lightroom. So what you can do, you can export it from the library module or the develop module as well as from the other modules. So what I can do, I can right click on this image and select export, which is over here. You can see, right click and select export and select the option on the top, export, or there is one more option, right click, export and export with previous. That means the previous setting which you have just used for exporting your image, that would be used, and that way you can quickly export your image. But we have not exported, so we'll go for the export. And there are some more options which are Lightroom presets. Lightroom has already created some presets like one full size image or full size JPEG, or export to DNG, or for mail or for email. Okay, and these are some other options if you want to export. So like if you have installed any plugin like DxO, so you can open this to the HDR EFX Pro 2. So that's the another one, and these are the user presets which I have created. So I'll show you how you can create them as well, so that you can quickly export it. Just click over there on one of these presets and boom, your image would be exported. So let's go to the first top option, which is the export, which is a normal option. And once we do this, this kind of a box would open, and here we need to first choose the export to. So there is an option of hardware, or we can directly mail it. So we can choose the mail, or we can burn it directly to the CD or DVD drive. Okay, but most likely I would like to export my images to the hard drive. All right, and then I have the option of choose to or export to a specific folder. Okay, so I can choose some folders. There are certain folders like desktop, my documents, user folder, my video folder, or my picture folders. These are some presets or pre-selected folders. You can choose one of them, or you can choose a specific folder or same folder as the original photos. So wherever your images are in your PC, it is going to export to that particular folder. So you can opt to choose that as well. And then we have the choose folder later, useful for presets. Suppose if you want to export your images to the different folders, then you must choose this option. So that way, when you are going to export your image, it is going to ask you like where you want to place your image, or where you want to export your image or save your image. So you can choose this one, but I most likely export my images to a specific folder, so that's why I have selected a specific folder. Okay, and then I need to choose that folder. So this is the folder, you can see. So I need to choose that folder and browse it anywhere. So let me just show you for this purpose. I will create a new folder, and this is called example. Okay, example folder, and I'm going to select this folder. So once I've selected this folder, you can see now this is visible over here. F top seller or slash example. So this is the folder which I have chosen, and now there is a little triangle over here. You can see, let me show you. This is a very little triangle. So if you just click over here, there are all the pre-selected options which you might have selected. So if you just don't want to go to this folder, or suppose you change your mind and you want to place it on some other folder, then you can choose it from here. Or if you want to remove this list, if you don't want to see all of these, then click over here and those would be clear. All right, I don't want to do this, so I'll just leave it as it is. Okay, and then we have the option to put it to the subfolder. So if you want to put into the subfolder, suppose we have chosen this folder named example, and if I want my exported images to into a different folder, so I can choose this one and I can rename it. So I can rename it whatever. So suppose if I choose it to be in entitled export, or I can rename it anything I want. Okay, so next is add to this catalog. So I just normally don't do this because I have already selected this folder, so I'm not going to select this, but if you want, you can do that. Then we have the add to this catalog option. So what it would do, it is going to export this image and it is going to add this image to this catalog which we have just created or on which we are working. Okay, so it is going to add it to this catalog. All right, so that way you don't have to export it or import it manually. And then we have the option of existing files. Okay, so suppose if there is a file with exactly the same name, in that case what Lightroom should do, it's asking for that. So one is the option is ask what to do. So it is going to ask you whether the Lightroom should overwrite that or give a different name or cancel. So there are three options, that is which it is going to give to us. Okay, then choose a new name. So we can choose it that by default let it choose a different name, or overwrite without warning. So this is the option. In that case it is going to overwrite and it's not going to give us the warning. And then we have the option of skip. So skip means that it will not export that image and it's going to skip that. Okay, but I prefer to choose the default one, which is the ask what to do. All right, so let me decide at that time whether I want it to be overwritten, or I want it to have a different name, or I want to skip. So all these three options are available over here. Okay, and now the next option is of file renaming, and if you want to close it, you can click on this little arrow which is over here, and if you click, it's going to open up all these options. So there's an option to rename to. So if you want to rename it, just check this, or if you don't want to rename it, leave it as it is or leave it unchecked. So if you want to rename it, let's check it to rename. And then we have the custom options. So these are different options which we can select. So we can choose a custom name X of Y, or custom name original file name, custom name sequence, or custom name date, or file name and sequence and file name. So let me show you to select one of these. So if I select custom name X and Y, it is going to show us this example. You can see over here example. So it's going to show us the custom text which we can place over here. So suppose in this case, let me show you the example, and you can see the preview of this, how our image would be renamed. So you can see example, this is the example, and in the bracket it's 1/1.jpg, and we can choose the start number. So if we choose to start from 1, it is going to reflect it over here on 1. If we choose to suppose 5, then it's going to 5/1. Okay, and if we change this option custom name x of y to the custom name original file name. So in this case, the original file name, so if you want to give some example, then it is going to add that word, like suppose sample text, let me write, and then you can see the sample text is over here, and it is going to add this to the original file name. Okay, and you can see custom name and original file name. So whatever would be the original file name, that would be over here. So suppose you want to export this image for web resolution, or in my case I have written like web text 1000 pixel. So this would be added that this image, which was the original name, is now has been exported as 1000 pixels. So you can opt to choose that as well. And then we have the option, let me choose sequence. You can see now the sequence is visible over here, like sequence is number 5, you can see over here. And if we choose the custom name, so we can rename it, or whatever name would be available over here, or we will write whatever name, that the file would be renamed exactly the same, and no extension or no original name would be there. And if we want to date and file name, is going to add the date. You can see first is the year 2018, and 08 is the month August, and 03 is the date. Okay, so we can opt to choose that as well. And then we have the file name and the sequence. So this is the file name and the original file name and the sequence. So we can choose the sequence. You can see added -5. So if I change it to 0, it's going to be on 0. And 0 can't be written over here, so let me write 1. Okay, so in that case it would be started with the 1. And then we have the last option of the file name. So whatever the original file name would be, it is going to export it with that name. But I don't want to do this, so I mostly go for the custom name. So I write mostly something like this. Okay, and then you can choose the extension to be lowercase or uppercase. So you can see this extension .jpg. Now if I have selected the uppercase, so it's in the uppercase or the capital letter JPEG, and if I choose it to be lowercase, you can see .jpg. So you can choose anything you want. And then come down, then we have the option for the videos. If you are exporting the videos, then you can choose the videos. So this is not the video, so it's not, these options are not available. So we can choose the video format, we can choose the video quality as well. And then we have the file settings. So this is very important. So first of all, we can choose the image format. So we can choose the image formats like JPEG, PSD, TIFF file, DNG, or the original file format, which is the originally the file has which we are exporting. Okay, so you can choose any of that. All right, and then we have the option to choose the color space. So most likely, if you want your images to work everywhere with the same color, then go for the sRGB. Otherwise you can choose other one as well, but I don't recommend that. sRGB is the standard on the internet or for printing purpose. It's everywhere. sRGB is accepted. If you choose the other options, then in some cases when you will export your images or you will share your images on your website, blog, or on the social media, they might have some weird colors. Okay, so make sure you select the sRGB. This is very important. And then we can choose the quality. So we can choose the quality of 100%. So 100% will make the file size very large, and if we choose something like this, 50 to 60%, I think is the medium quality, where you maintain the lower size as well as the quality. So make sure when you are exporting it for the web, you choose this option. But if you want to export it for the printing purpose or for selling it online, make sure it's always the 100%. And then we have one more option where we can choose to limit the file size. So we can choose to limit the file size. In this case, this quality option would not be available over here. So now we are limited to the limit file size. Now the quality option is not available, so we can limit the file size. So suppose if you want that you don't want your image to be more than let's say 60K, so you can choose it to 60K or 100K, because there are, when you fill some online forms for particular job, then they ask your image to be not more than the particular size. So this option is very useful for that purpose. Or if you have a limited space, or there is some quality require or size requirement, then you can choose that as well. I don't normally use it, so I uncheck this and I most likely go for the quality, so it's 60%. And then comes the next option. This is of image sizing. So we can choose the different size for this image. So we need to check this one, resize to fit. If you don't want to keep it, so just uncheck it. So in that case, the image would not be resized. But if you want to export it for the web purpose, you have to resize it. So let's resize it, and from this drop down menu we have different options. We can choose the width and height, so we can give exactly the width and the height for the image. But this doesn't work properly, reason being that every image has different width and the height. But if you choose this, in that case your image would be distorted with this setting. So whatever you are going to choose it from here. So you can choose the dimension as well. You can choose the long as or short as or megapixels. So you can choose the megapixels. So suppose if you want to export your image only in the 2 megapixels, then you can choose that as well. And then we have the percentage. So percentage is also works better. So if you suppose you want your image to be 30% of whatever it is, so you can type 30%. So 30% would work with every image. Or if you want, like suppose if you are submitting your image for the for some online competition, they always require that the image should be having of certain dimension in the longest edge or on the longest edge. So you can choose the longest edge, and then you can type in whatever requirement is there. But if you want to export your image, or you want to export your image for sharing on social media, always go for 1000 pixels or 1200 pixels or 15 pixels. So I most likely to choose the long edge, and the long edge should be the 1000 pixels. So I can choose it pixels, inch or c or the centimeter. Since I am not in a printing business, I most likely to work with the pixels, so I'll choose the pixels. So that way my image would be exported in thousands pixels on the longest edge. Okay, and if you want, you can check it don't enlarge. So that means if there is a smaller image, suppose if you have small image which is less than 1000 pixels, and in that case what the Lightroom would do, Lightroom would automatically make it 1000 pixels. So if you check this one, it is not going to enlarge that image. And then we have the option of resolution. So for the web, it's always 72 pixels. So 72 is the optimized web resolution, where your image loads fast and it has even the smaller size. So always go for 72 resolution for web. But if you want to sell your image or want to print your image, so make sure it's at least 240 or 300 pixels per inch. But if you go beyond that, your image size would be huge. It would be gigantic. So make sure you choose the proper resolution. For web it's 72, for printing it's 240 or 300. All right, go for that. And then you can choose for pixels per inch or pixels per centimeter. Let it be by default pixels per inch. Okay, so now once you have selected the image resizing, and then we have the option of output sharpening. So here we can choose whether we want this image to be sharpened for. So in this case, let me check it. Suppose if you want to export your image and want some extra sharpening for like printing purpose or for sharing on screen, so you can choose it for screen or for matte paper. So if you plan to print your image on the matte paper, you need little bit extra sharpening on that, so you can choose that one, or there is a different that is for the glossy paper. So you can opt to choose all of these, and that would help you to get the better print. And then we have the option of standard. So amount should be the standard, whether the sharpening would be low or standard or the high. So you can opt to choose anything from here, but I normally don't do it, so I just keep it unchecked. And then we have the option of metadata. Metadata is the basic information available in the image, like camera gears, like what settings you have choose, and what is the file name and keywords and all that. So you want to include all the metadata or only the copyright information or copyright and contact information, and all except camera raw info. Camera raw info means camera settings and all that, and all except camera and camera raw info. So you can opt to choose any of these options, but I normally go for all metadata, because once I added the keywords and other metadata like title and caption or the description to my image, and when I upload it to certain sites, they automatically get all those titles, metadata and keywords from the image metadata. But if you opt to remove them, then in that case you have to manually type it, and that is really an horrible job that takes lots of time. So I don't want to do this, so I always keep my all metadata. If you remove them, it would take away extra information from the image, and that's going to make it little bit smaller in size, but it's okay, few KB doesn't matter. So I always go for all metadata, or in this case you have another option. So you can choose the remove person information, like your personal information, or remove location information if you want to, and write keywords as Lightroom hierarchy. So you can choose it to, like here when you have given some keywords, so it is going to make all those keywords in the alphabetical order. So if you want to choose it, so you can choose it that way as well. And then we have the option of watermarking. Watermarking means if you want to place your logo or the watermark, then you need to check this watermark. And from this drop down menu, we can select our watermark or logo which we have created, or you can simply write copyright watermark. So in that case, there would be a simple text copyrighted would be written, or you can choose the edit watermark. So if you have not created any watermark or logo, then you need to click over here, edit watermarks, and this option would open. And in this option you can see we have the option. So we have to choose from here if you have created some previously, and here we have the option to choose the text. Let me select, bring it this way, this side. So you can choose the text. So in that case, you can see over here only the text is written copyright. So if you want to change it to anything like your name, you can write it over here. And if you want to choose the graphic, so in this case I have chosen my logo which I have created. So you can go for that as well, and that would be visible over here. And then we have all bunch of options. So if you have decided to go for the logo, you can see graphic, you need to choose the graphic, and then we have the option to choose, and that is going to browse that folder where your logo is situated. You need to browse that and select that, or your watermark. And then we have the option of text option. So if you have opted for the text, or if you have chosen the text, then you will be having all these options. You can change the font or which font you want to use, and their style, whether it would be the regular, bold or italic, and its alignment you can choose that as well. You can choose different color as well. By default it's white. Okay, it's not available, reason being we have selected the graphics. And then we have the option to choose the shadows. So we can choose the shadows, offset, radius, angle, all of these in the text. And then we have the option of watermark effects. So here we can choose its opacity. So at the moment you can see I have selected 60% opacity, so that way my logo would not be that prominent. But if you want, you can go for that, but it's always better to keep your opacity to 50 or 60% of your logo. That way it looks better on the image. Otherwise the main focus remains on the logo or your watermark. So always just keep it to around 60% low opacity, or if you want, you can even go lower than that. And then we have the option of size of this graphic. So we can size it to the proportion. So if I can increase it, you can see now the size has become way too larger, or I can decrease it. So I can make it smaller, you can see, and I can manually type it over here as well. And then we have the option of fit. So if you check this fit, it is going to fit on this size of the size of the image. Or if you want to choose the fill, you can see now it is going to fill this image with the logo. And then we have the, let's go to the proportional, and then we have the option of inset. So we can move it on the vertically or horizontally. So we have the option of horizontal. If I drag it to this side, you can see you can just notice over here I can drag it to the left or the right, and similarly vertically I can drag it up or down. So it's all dependent on your liking, so where you want to place your watermark. So once you have decided this, in that case the logo or the watermark would be placed on exactly the same position. You won't be later on able to edit it. You can edit it and reset it or save a new preset, but you have to decide it or select this in the beginning. Okay, so let it be this way. And then we have the option of anchor. So we can choose it on any of the corners, which you can see over here clearly, anchor. So if I select the add the top, you can see the now watermark goes on the top. If I select middle, it's in the middle. If I select this one, it is on this side. If I select this, so I can click on any of the circles and it's going to place the watermark on everywhere, but I normally want to keep it over here because that way it looks good. And then if you want, you can rotate it as well. So if you want it to be this way or want it to be this way, so you can rotate your watermark as well with this option. Once you have selected all of these, you need to press save and your watermark would be saved, and in that case it would be available over here. So as you can see, I have two options, one is this one and one is another one over here. So I can choose anything I want, or I can save the current setting as a new preset. So I can save it as a new preset. Then in that case it would allow me to choose a name, but I'm not going to do this. and then we can choose the restore default preset, so if there would be any default presets, or I can update the preset which I have already created. So currently we are working on this Harshvardhan low opacity, so if I click on this, it is going to update all of these settings on this preset which is over here. Okay, so I can go for that as well, but I'm not going to do this as I have already done this, so I will press cancel. Okay, so once you have done it, then we have the last option of post processing. Post processing means once the Lightroom has exported your image, what the Lightroom should do. So here we have the option show in Explorer. One is do nothing, it's not going to do anything. Second is show in Explorer, so that means it is going to open up that folder and it will show you image which has been exported in the Explorer or Windows Explorer. And then we have the option of open in Adobe Photoshop CC or whichever version you have installed on your folder or on your PC. So it's going to show us that. And we can choose the open in another application. If you want to open it in another application, then you can click on this and then it would allow you to choose that application. So choose an application in which you want to open that folder. So you can choose and you can browse the exe file, and in that case, once the image would be exported, it's going to open up that for one. But I want to just simply show in Explorer. I want to check this one, and I always keep it this way. Okay, show in Explorer, and if I create a one folder, one more option which is open in Adobe Photoshop. So if I want to do some advanced editing, then I make a one presets for open in Adobe Photoshop CC. Okay, so once we have done all of these settings, then we need to come over here and select on this add. So we'll select the add, and it's going to ask us to rename our preset, so we can rename it as example, and this would go into the user presets, or we can create a new folder as well. So let me show you. I create a new folder and let me rename it as my presets. Oops. And create, and you can see now a new option of my presets is created over here, and then I can press create, and you can see now this has been created over here as the example. And once it is done, I can press export or I can press cancel. Okay, so let me show you by canceling it. I have already created this one. So what I'll do simply now, I would right click and select export, and in this case you can see this example preset is now available for us. You can see, so I just need to click over here on this, and you can see the image is exported, and since we have selected to show in Explorer, it has shown us the image in the Explorer, and you can see exactly the same. So this is how you can create a preset in Adobe Lightroom, so that you can quickly export all of your images. So if you want to export multiple images, select all of these, right click and select export and select your presets. So as you can see now, since we have already exported this image and this is already over there, so it is asking us to select or use a unique name, overwrite, skip and use unique name. So we can choose to overwrite, and you can see all of our images has been exported successfully with the exact 1000 pixels which we have selected. All right, so this is how you can export your images from the Lightroom using the various options or for the various needs. So thank you so much. I hope you have learned something useful from this tutorial. If you did, hit the like button. If you have any question or if you want to say something, you can leave that in the comment section or in the question answer section. So thank you so much. Bye bye. See you in the next lecture.